Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to show you how to install and set up the brand new PCSX2 2.0 emulator, which will allow you to play your favorite PS2 games right on your PC. Whether you're a seasoned emulator pro or a complete beginner, this guide will cover everything you need to know to get started. We'll be going through 7 key steps: installing PCSX2, setting up your controls, adding your games, configuring general settings, setting up your game covers and artworks, tweaking game specific settings, and checking the compatibility list to ensure smooth gameplay. So grab your controller and let's dive right in.
But it looks like I won this one.
Okay, now that we are on the desktop, let's open up the browser and search for PCSX2. The first result should be the official PCSX2 homepage. Go ahead and open it up. From here, we need the latest stable release. Select your installer according to your operating system. I'll be choosing Windows installer. Once the download is finished, let's launch the installer. You'll see two options here, standard and portable. The standard option will place your resources folder in the documents and install the emulator in the C drive, which I personally don't prefer. So I'll select the portable option, which keeps all of my files in the same folder. Follow the instructions to complete the installation. Now let's launch the emulator. First, let me show you where it is installed. As you can see, it's in the C drive inside the PCSX2 folder. Now let's get back to the emulator. Here we have an option to enable automatic updates, which I'll leave on. Next, we have language and theme selection. I'll leave the language to default and set the theme to dark fusion blue because I like this theme. Hit next. And now we need to select our BIOS file. Unfortunately, BIOS files are copyright protected, so I cannot show you how to download them. However, I can give you a hint. Do a Google search or visit archive.org. Once you have the BIOS file, paste it in the BIOS folder inside the PCSX2 installation folder I showed you earlier. After pasting the BIOS file, hit the refresh button and your BIOS file should appear. Select your BIOS file and hit the next button. Now we need to select a folder that contains our game files. This can be any folder on your PC. It does not have to be inside your PCSX2 installation folder. You can even mount an external drive and add the folder from there, which is very convenient. Once again, you can get the game files from archive.org or from other websites, but I cannot show it here to avoid any channel issues. Make sure your game files are in .iso format. If they are in zip or rar format, extract them and delete the zip or rar files. Now let's add the folder. I have a folder where I keep all my PS2 games. Select this folder and it will ask you to scan the folder recursively, which means it will scan for games in subfolders as well. I'll leave it checked. You can add more folders if you like, but I'll stick with the one for now. Hit next. Next, we configure our controllers. You can select what type of controller you want to emulate. Usually a DualShock 2. You can use a keyboard and mouse, but I prefer my PS4 controller. I recommend using a controller because PS2 games were designed with controllers in mind. After connecting your controller, hit the automatic key mapping button and select your controller from the drop down. You can add a second controller if you want, but I'll leave it unconnected for now. Hit finish and we're in the emulator. Now let's make the emulator look pretty by adding artworks. Go to this GitHub page and scroll down to this section with two links, one for 3D covers and one for 2D covers. Copy one of the link and in the emulator go to Tools, Cover Downloader, paste the link. Check the Use Serial File Names option and press Start. It will download and apply artworks to the game. Some games might be missing artworks because they're not in the 3D cover database. You can browse the covers in the PCSX2 folder. To add custom covers, paste your image here and rename them to match the game's serial number, and it will apply to the game. Now let's add 2D covers. Copy the other link, paste it, check the appropriate box and hit the start. If you want all of your games to have 2D covers, just delete the 3D covers from the folder and use 2D cover link to download all the artworks again. Now let's set up the emulator settings. Go to the settings, graphics. Here we can set the default settings for our games. Most default settings works fine, but make sure to change the renderer to Vulkan and select your graphic card in the adapter dropdown. Leave full screen as is and set the aspect ratio to widescreen 16:9. Leave FMV aspect ratio, deinterlacing, bilinear filtering to their defaults. These settings are common starting point for the specific game settings, which we'll discuss later. You can apply a widescreen patch, but I recommend using patches from patches section as they work better. Now let's move to rendering. Change the internal resolution to match your monitor's resolution. Mine is 1440p. Set anisotropic filtering to 16x or lower if your PC can't handle it. Leave everything else to default. Some games require specific settings like Dragon Ball Z, Budokai Tenkaichi 3, but we'll leave these settings on default for now. Texture replacement is an advanced topic which requires a separate video. Let me know in the comments if you want me to cover it. I don't prefer post-processing effects, so I'll leave them off. You can also select TV shaders to make it look like you're playing on an old monitor, but I'll leave that off as well. Finally, change the resolution of the recording settings. PCSX2 can record your gameplay, so you don't need any other recording software. Next, let's move to the patches section. Right click on a game, go to the properties and then patches. PCSX2 can download patches for all of your games. Enable the ones you want like widescreen patch and 60 FPS patch. Now let's talk about game specific settings. Head to the compatibility list on the PCSX2 website. Here you can check the compatibility of your games and see the recommended settings and fixes. Apply these settings to your games by right-clicking on the game, going to the properties and changing the specific game settings. Be careful not to change global settings as they might break other games. Finally, go to settings, interface, hide the cursor and set the game to start full screen. Now it's time to enjoy your games. And there you have it folks, you're now all set up to enjoy your favorite PS2 games with the PCSX2 emulator. I hope this guide has been helpful and that you're ready to dive into some nostalgic gaming. If you have any questions or run into any issues, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll do my best to help you out. Don't forget to like this video if you found it useful and subscribe to the channel for more gaming tutorials and content. Also be sure to check my video on PS2 hidden gems for more retro gaming goodness. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.